Hi everyone, this is Maria from bemisreviewsbooks.com and welcome to May's edition of Book Chat. This is the place where I discuss all of the books I've currently read during the past month and whose reviews are all already on the blog. And also I discuss what I am currently reading. So before I begin, and we do have quite a few books to get through today, I just wanted to make an announcement that this is going to be the final book chat that I'm recording for at least a while. I'm going to take the summer and figure out what direction I want to take this, if I want to continue or if I want to maybe put this to rest for good. There are several other monthly features that I work on the blog, and this one didn't really get the response that I had hoped for. I will admit that I haven't spent the time to market my YouTube channel the way I would need to. And at this point, I think I just need to take some time to reassess the direction I want to go in. So this is going to be it for a while. And I'd like to get started because I do have quite a few amazing books to get through. So starting with the first one, The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. I don't know why I've never read this book before now. I found it hilarious. I loved it. In fact, I went and purchased the next two books in the series. This book is all about Earth's destruction and planetary outer space. Who's really running the show and who controls whom. And really, it's about the absurdity of it all, and maybe even the futility of it all, but it's written in such a hilarious way that I did nothing but laugh and chuckle all the way through. So long, and thanks for all of the fish. If you haven't read the book, you're not going to know what that means, and I won't spoil it for you. If you have, you know exactly what I'm saying. I think that phrase, which was my favorite phrase from the whole book, really sums it up quite nicely. It is a very funny book, and it's filled with British humor. I found it very funny, and I think it's one of those books that, do you want to laugh and clear your head? Read this book. Next book up, The Museum of Extraordinary Things by Alice Hoffman. I love Alice Hoffman. The Dove Keepers was probably one of my favorite books of all time, and I love everything that she writes. Everything that I pick up from her I know is going to be good. This book is no exception. The elements fire and water merge to create a mystical tale, and mysticism is something that she does so well. Mystical tale of two young lovers living in their own private hells who must fight to get back to each other. So she writes two very compelling characters, one male, one female, and tells their stories individually and kind of weaves their stories into each other until the point where they actually meet. And it's a beautiful story. I think that if you're an Alice Hoffman fan and you haven't read it, you're going to love it. Next book up. This is actually a reread. I read Animal Farm decades ago, actually, and I recently was on a trip to an independent bookstore, and I wanted to pick up some of the classics for my library, my growing library, and this was one of the books that I wanted. So I actually, I was a little bit on a frugal mission, so I picked up one of the mass-produced copies. Even though that there were some really nice copies that I would have much rather had for my collection. But I do like the Signet Classic series because these paperbacks are totally readable and you can take them anywhere. And they're not that expensive, so that if something happens, you can easily replace it. This book is filled with satire. It's very funny. I sat down and I read it within a day. Farm animal revolution led by two headstrong pigs with the promise of equality for all animals takes a very sinister turn when the ugly truth is revealed. There's a much to relate to in this book, and I recommend it for everybody, all people, young and old. Next book up, also on the same book buying journey. I picked this one up as well. As you may very well know, that the sales for 1984 skyrocketed after our presidential election. And during that time, I decided I was going to finally pick this book up and read it. It's something that I have been waiting to read for a very long time. I find this to be one of the most significant stories of dystopian society of our time. and it was not a comfortable or an easy read. Through unrelenting torture, humans are systematically stripped of their humanity, while life cruelly marches on. But the life that, or life as we know it, no longer exists. I found, again, there was a lot to relate to in this book in terms of our present day society, and I think this is one of the connect the dots books. Again, recommended for all. It's not comfortable, it's not easy. I ended up, coming out of the book feeling like there was no good news here. And I think that the importance of finding meaning in your life is really illuminated when you read a book like this, because there was no happy ending at all. So, and I still recommend this book, okay? Because I don't believe in reading feel goods all the time, okay? I think that reading needs to be something that contributes to life and should be meaningful, and we should read all different types of books, not just the ones with happy endings. The Hate You Give. This is Angie Thomas's debut novel. She hit it out of the park. This book is amazing. You are going to love Star, the main character. It's a powerful story about 16-year-old Star, who is precariously straddling two worlds and her uphill climb to acceptance. So Star is, a young girl who is living in the ghetto with her family. She attends a very prestigious school. Her parents want to give her the best that they possibly can. And she, is a person who is really struggling to be who she is in all situations. I think you're going to love Star and her fight to find her voice and to find justice for those who love. A big part of the story centers around a horrific murder that Star witnesses, and it's the murder of a beloved childhood friend. Star has not had an easy life in the things that she's witnessed and seen, and that is a big part of the story. This is a young girl who is put in a situation, or many situations, that none of us would believe a young girl should have to live through. But Star has such elegance and grace, and she is such a good human being right down to her core. She never stops fighting. I love this book so much. I think this is one of those almost, I'm going to call it like a race paradigm buster. Amazing. Next up, 13 Ways of Looking at a Fat Girl. And I actually picked this book up because of the title. I found it intriguing. The book is actually, I didn't love the book. I still put it on the list even though I wouldn't necessarily recommend it. It's a very dark and somewhat shocking depiction of an obese young woman and her fragile state of mind. And we first meet Lizzie when she's a teen. She totally lacks self-esteem. She is mistreated by many people in her life. And we watch her move through her 20s. She loses a significant amount of weight. She's no longer obese at one point in the book, and yet she still cannot let go of that mindset, and she struggles. But it is a very dark and depressing tale. She just never seems to get her act together. She never seems to get it right, and she's got such a negative frame of mind. Whenever she comes in contact with anyone, her mindset is just so negative. It's hard. It's hard to live inside Lizzie's head, but I do feel, again, that it is a very interesting tale, and it gives you that perspective that you may not have already had into what somebody else may be thinking. So for that reason alone, I was glad that I read it. And again, if you're the kind of person like I am who really loves to delve into different lifestyles and perspectives on life, then you might want to pick this book up and give it a try. It's not very long, and you might find it very interesting. Don't have a visual for this one. I read this on my Kindle, Watch Me Disappear by Janelle Brown. This book is actually, the publication date is July 11th, 2017, so this book hasn't quite come out yet. This would actually make a great beach read. A beloved wife and mother's mysterious disappearance on a solo hiking trip uncovers clues alluding to a marriage less than idyllic. So it is full of suspense. It's a psychological type of thriller novel. Very quick read, and I thought that Janelle Brown did a really good job on this story. Last up, This is my book of the month pick for May. As you can see through that stack that I just went through, I've read some really amazing books this month, so it was a hard choice, and there was, two classics in there as well. This book is going to become a classic in its own right. I had to choose Colson Whitehead, The Underground Railroad, for my book of the month pick because I was so blown away by this story. It was a hard choice for this month, but I'm so glad that I chose this one. This is a pre-Civil War story of a young woman's inferno-driven desire to escape slavery. Cora, was born on a plantation, and that was the life that she knew. She's haunted by her mother's disappearance. Her mother actually made a bid at freedom and left Cora alone to fend for herself. Father was out of the picture, so she was, actually orphaned on a plantation, and she grew up. By the time Cora is 18 years old, she decides to make a break and run away and search for freedom. So this is her journey from plantation to the life that she dreams of. It's riveting, and her journey is via the Underground Railroad. So this railroad system has built, and she travels from state to state. We followed Cora on her journey, all while she is being ruthlessly hunted by a particular slave catcher. I love the story from start to finish. I could not get enough of it. The writing is spectacular. You will root for Cora every step of the way. She is just an amazing heart and soul, and I love this book so much. I'm so glad I read it. I feel that, again, paradigm buster in terms of perspective and the way that we see race, and also a reminder that racial discrimination and prejudice is woven into each and every one of us, whether we want to admit it or not. And I think that this book, it gives us, on the one hand, permission to admit that, and on the other hand, a new, richer, deeper perspective into the ways that we view race and the racial divide. Loved it. So that's it for all of the books that I've currently read and reviewed. One book, and I only have one that I'm currently reading. I'm almost finished with this one. This is Roxane Gay's Difficult Women. I like this book a lot. It's actually I did not know when I picked it up that it was going to be a collection of short stories. I always have mixed feelings about picking up short stories, but I'm more open to them at this point in my life than I ever have before, and that's a good thing. She is an amazing writer. This is a stark, raw collection of short stories about the complexities of women, their deepest, innermost thoughts, and how many of life's most harrowing experiences have no resolution. So, again, uncomfortable, hard to read in some spots, but it's a book that really makes you think. She has done an amazing job with this book. I'm actually looking forward to reading more of her work because I read this book, and I do recommend this book. So that's it, everybody. I hope you have a great summer, and I will let you know what I decide with Book Chat. But until then, take good care of yourself. Have a great